The massive alien vessel glided silently into Earth's orbital space, its crystalline structure reflecting the sunlight like a giant prism. Commander J. Park stood motionless in the United Earth Defense Command Center, his eyes fixed on the holographic display tracking the incoming ship. Beside him, Dr. Hana Kim adjusted her communication systems, her fingers dancing across the translucent screens. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Humanity had been waiting for this moment for decades. First contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. The alien delegation consisted of 3 beings that defied easy description. Their bodies shifted between solid and liquid states, with skin that changed colors like living mood rings. Kiro, the lead representative, looked almost uncomfortable in the Earth's gravity and atmosphere. "We come with peaceful intentions," Kiro communicated through a complex translation device that hummed softly. Jay raised an eyebrow. His military training had taught him that peaceful intentions were often just words. Humans had learned long ago that survival meant being prepared for anything. The initial meeting took place in a specially designed neutral zone within the United Nations headquarters. Clean white walls and minimal furniture created an environment that felt both sterile and tense. Diplomats from various Earth nations watched carefully through one-way glass. Kiro began explaining their civilization's history. They were a collective, species that had traveled across multiple star systems seeking knowledge and resources. Their society was built on cooperation, with each individual functioning like a cell in a larger organism. "We find your species puzzling," Kiro said, his form momentarily flickering between blue and green. "You consume other living organisms. You have complex hierarchical structures. You seem chaotic." Dr. Hana Kim stepped forward. She was a xenobiological expert who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. "Chaos is our strength," she explained, calmly. "Adaptation is our survival mechanism." The alien delegation seemed confused. Most galactic civilizations they had encountered were peaceful, energy-based, or purely intellectual beings. Humans were different. Humans were predators who had transformed their predatory instincts into technological and social innovation. Jay watched the interaction carefully. His hand remained close to a communication device, ready to signal Earth's defense systems at the slightest threat. Years of military training had taught him that first impressions could be deceiving. The aliens shared information about their civilization. They had encountered hundreds of species during their travels, but humans were unique. Most species they knew were specialized, either intellectual or physical, but rarely both. Humans seemed to break every conventional rule of galactic civilization. "You hunt. You create. You destroy. You rebuild," Kiro observed, his voice a strange musical tone that seemed to vibrate through the room. "Most species choose one path. You choose all paths." Hana smiled. It was a predator's smile, sharp and intelligent. "Survival requires flexibility," she responded. The meeting continued for hours. Star charts were exchanged. Technological principles were discussed. Cultural differences were explored. But underneath the diplomatic language, there was a subtle tension. The aliens were trying to understand humans, and humans were carefully analyzing every word and gesture. Jay noticed how the alien delegation seemed both fascinated and slightly afraid. Humans represented an unknown variable in their galactic understanding, a species that could be cooperative and competitive, peaceful and aggressive, intellectual and physical. As the first day of contact concluded, no major agreements were made. But something important had happened. 2 completely different civilizations had sat in the same room and attempted to understand each other. Outside the meeting room, Earth continued its daily routine. People went to work, children played, satellites orbited. The world remained unaware of the subtle shift that was happening, a moment that would change human history forever. Kiro and his delegation prepared to return to their ship. Before leaving, he turned to Jay and Hana with a final observation. "You are not what we expected," he said, his form shimmering with multiple colors. Jay's response was simple and direct. "We rarely are." The alien ship began its departure sequence, leaving behind a world that was fundamentally different from just a few hours earlier. First contact had been made, and humanity had shown that it was ready for whatever the universe might bring. In the command center, Dr. Hana Kim looked at Commander J. Park. No words were needed. They both understood that this was just the beginning of a much larger story. The first warning came as a distant echo across galactic communication networks. A small research outpost near the Andromeda Spiral had gone silent. Then another, and another. Dr. Hana Kim stood in the research center, her fingers tracing holographic star maps. Something was moving through space, consuming entire planetary systems like a massive, unstoppable wave. The silicon-based life forms left nothing behind. Not debris, not radiation, just empty space where entire worlds once existed. Commander J. Park studied the data with a hunter's concentration. These weren't random attacks. This was systematic, consumption on a galactic scale. The alien delegation returned to Earth, their previous confidence replaced by a deep sense of urgency. Kiro's crystalline body flickered with nervous energy as he explained the threat. "We call them the consumers," he said, his voice trembling. "They are not a civilization. They are a biological system that moves through space, absorbing resources." Satellite images revealed the terrifying truth. Where the consumers moved, entire star systems disappeared. Planets were reduced to basic molecular components, stripped of every possible resource. Conventional weapons were useless against them. Most galactic civilizations had evolved to be peaceful. They were researchers, philosophers, energy-based beings who solved problems through communication and compromise. The consumers didn't negotiate, they simply consumed. Hana began mapping their movement patterns. It was like watching a massive, biological algorithm move through space. Each consumed system made them stronger, more efficient. They learned, they adapted, they grew. Military strategists from around the world gathered in the underground command center. Maps showed the consumer's potential path, and Earth was directly in their route. "They're not just moving," Jay explained to the gathered experts. "They're calculating. Each system they consume gives them more information, more resources." The alien representatives looked defeated. Their advanced technologies, their centuries of peaceful exploration, meant nothing against this threat. But humans were different. Humans saw the consumers as a problem to be solved, not an unstoppable force. Hana's research team worked around the clock. They studied every piece of data, every fragment of information about the silicon-based life forms. Where other species saw an impossible threat, humans saw a complex biological system with potential weaknesses. "They consume resources," Hana told Jay, "but every consuming system has limits. Every biological mechanism has a breaking point." The global response was immediate. Military production increased. Scientific research was redirected. Every human resource was focused on understanding and defeating the consumers. Kiro watched in amazement. Most galactic civilizations would have negotiated, would have tried to find a peaceful solution. Humans were preparing for war. Military factories worked non-stop. New weapons were designed. Spacecraft were built with record speed. Humanity transformed from a planetary civilization to a defensive force in weeks. Intelligence reports showed the consumers were getting closer. They had already consumed 12 planetary systems. Each consumption made them stronger, more complex. They were learning, adapting, growing with each world they destroyed. Jay looked at the star maps. Earth wasn't just fighting for itself. They were fighting for every civilization that couldn't defend itself. The peaceful species of the galaxy were counting on humanity's unique ability to be both intellectual and aggressive. "We're not just going to defend," Jay told his command team. "We're going to hunt them." The word hunt was significant. It represented humanity's evolutionary heritage, the predatory instinct that most advanced civilizations had abandoned. Humans were descended from hunters, from creatures that survived by being adaptable, by understanding their prey. Hana's research revealed something extraordinary. The consumers had a fundamental weakness in their molecular structure. They absorbed resources, but they couldn't quickly adapt to complex, changing environments. They're efficient, she explained. But efficiency means inflexibility. As the threat grew closer, humanity prepared, not with fear, not with panic, but with the calm concentration of a species that had survived by being unpredictable. The galaxy watched. The alien civilizations waited. The consumers continued their path of destruction. But humans were ready. And humans were about to show the universe what a truly adaptable species could do. The first strike would be nothing like anyone expected. Dr. Sung Huang stood in the underground research facility, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex molecular structures. His team had been working for weeks, studying the silicon-based consumer's biological composition. "We can't fight them with traditional weapons," Sung told Commander J. Park. "We need to attack their fundamental structure." Humanity's approach was different from any previous galactic conflict. Where other civilizations saw a powerful enemy, humans saw a complex biological system with exploitable weaknesses. The initial strategy was deceptively simple. Instead of massive weapon systems, Sung's team developed targeted molecular disruptors. These weren't explosives or traditional weapons. They were precision instruments designed to break down the consumer's internal molecular bonds. Jay assembled a special task force, not just military personnel but scientists, programmers, and biological experts. Each team member brought a unique perspective to the problem. Their first test came unexpectedly. A small consumer advance team entered the outer solar system, probably scouting for potential resource absorption. Most civilizations would have panicked. Humans saw an opportunity. The attack began with something almost invisible: nano-engineered viral agents designed to introduce fundamental instabilities into the consumer's molecular structure. These weren't traditional viruses, but precisely crafted biological algorithms that could break down their silicon-based composition. Kiro and the alien delegation watched in disbelief. Humans weren't just defending, they were thinking several steps ahead. The first consumer scout group began to disintegrate, not through explosive force, but through a carefully designed molecular breakdown. It was like watching ice melt, but at a microscopic level. The consumer's seemingly impenetrable structure started to collapse from within. Psychological warfare became another unexpected weapon. Humans broadcast complex signal patterns that disrupted the consumer's communication networks. These weren't just random signals, but carefully designed information sequences that introduced confusion into their collective system. "They think like a computer," Sung explained. "But we'll make that thinking unpredictable." Military teams prepared, multiple attack vectors. Some were physical, some were technological, some were purely informational. Humanity's strength had always been adaptability, and they were about to prove it on a galactic scale. Drone swarms were prepared with unique programming. Each drone could make independent decisions, could adapt its approach mid-mission. Where traditional military systems followed strict protocols, these were designed to be unpredictable. The alien representatives began to understand why humans were different. Most galactic civilizations saw warfare as a last resort. Humans saw it as a complex problem-solving exercise. Sung's team developed weapons that didn't just destroy. They destabilized. They introduced fundamental uncertainties into the consumer's biological system. Each weapon was like a precise surgical tool, designed to create maximum disruption with minimum direct force. Communication intercepts revealed something fascinating. The consumers were beginning to recognize humans as something entirely unexpected. Not just another resource to be consumed, but a genuine threat. Jay's strategy was multi-layered: physical attacks, technological disruptions, psychological warfare, information manipulation. Each approach was designed to attack the consumers from multiple angles simultaneously. The first major engagement happened near Jupiter's orbit. A consumer advance group approached expecting easy resource absorption. What they found was a carefully prepared trap. Nano-engineered clouds introduced molecular disruptors. Signal broadcasts created communication chaos. Drone swarms attacked from unexpected angles. The consumer group, so used to systematic consumption, suddenly faced an enemy that didn't follow any expected pattern. Kira watched the engagement with a mixture of fear and fascination. They're not fighting, he told his fellow alien representatives. They're solving a complex biological problem. As the first consumer group collapsed, something became clear. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to conflict. The galaxy watched. The consumers were learning. But humans were always one step ahead. The unconventional war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. Commander J. Park stood on the bridge of the flagship Horizon, his eyes locked on the massive holographic display. Thousands of specialized spacecraft moved like a living network, each vessel connected through quantum communication channels that the consumers couldn't penetrate. Dr. Hana Kim's research had revealed their ultimate weakness. The silicon-based creatures worked like a massive biological computer, predictable and systematic. Humans were anything but predictable. The first wave struck without warning. Specialized drone swarms approached consumer territory, not as an attack, but as a complex information disruption system. Each drone carried molecular disruptors and advanced signal generators designed to create fundamental chaos in their communication networks. "We're not fighting," Jay told his command team. "We're solving a biological problem." Consumer scouts detected the approach but couldn't understand the strategy. Where previous civilizations would have launched direct attacks, humans introduced controlled uncertainty. Some drones carried destructive agents. Some carried complex information patterns. Some were purely decoys. Sung Huang's molecular research team had prepared something extraordinary. The drones carried engineered biological algorithms that could break down the consumer's fundamental molecular structure. It wasn't destruction. It was systematic deconstruction. The alien delegation watched in shocked silence. Kiro observed how humans transformed warfare into a complex problem-solving exercise. Most galactic civilizations saw conflict as a last resort. Humans saw it as an opportunity for innovation. Near the Orion Nebula, the first major engagement unfolded. Consumer ships, massive silicon structures that had consumed entire planetary systems, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that didn't follow any expected pattern. Humanity's fleet moved like a living organism. Each spacecraft could make independent decisions. Each team could adapt its strategy in milliseconds. Where traditional militaries followed strict protocols, these units were designed to be unpredictable. Quantum entanglement communication meant the consumers couldn't intercept or predict human communications. Every signal, every movement was designed to introduce fundamental uncertainties into their system. The battle wasn't about destroying the consumers. It was about breaking their ability to function as a collective system. Targeted molecular disruptors introduced fundamental instabilities. Complex signal patterns created communication chaos. Hana's team had discovered something crucial. The consumers absorbed resources systematically, but they couldn't quickly adapt to rapidly changing environments. Humans would become that unpredictable environment. Drone swarms attacked from impossible angles. Some carried destructive agents. Some introduced molecular disruptors. Some were pure misinformation generators designed to create confusion in the consumer's collective intelligence. "They're learning," Jay told Hana, "but we'll always be one step ahead." The consumer collective began to fracture. Their first encounters with humanity had been simple resource assessments. Now they faced an enemy that didn't follow any expected pattern of conflict. Near the edge of the solar system, massive consumer ships started to collapse. Not through direct destruction, but through systematic molecular breakdown. It was like watching a complex machine slowly disassemble itself. Kiro and the alien delegation watched in disbelief. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to survival. Each successful attack introduced more uncertainty into the consumer system. Their collective intelligence, so used to systematic resource absorption, couldn't comprehend an enemy that saw conflict as a complex problem to be solved. The counterattack wasn't just a military operation. It was a demonstration of human adaptability. Where other civilizations saw an impossible threat, humans saw a complex, biological system with fundamental weaknesses. As consumer ships began to collapse, something became clear. This wasn't just a war. This was humanity showing the galaxy what true adaptive intelligence looked like. The stars watched. The galaxy held its breath. And humanity continued its systematic deconstruction of an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. The counterattack had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Broken consumer ships drifted like frozen memories across distant star systems. Humanity had done what no civilization thought possible. They had stopped the unstoppable. Commander J. Park stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Command Station, watching holographic displays showing the final stages of the conflict. Dr. Hana Kim approached, her face tired but satisfied. "We didn't just win," she said quietly. "We changed everything." The Galactic Confederation gathered in an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of planetary systems watched recordings of human tactics. What they saw challenged everything. They understood about conflict and survival. Kiro, the alien diplomatic representative who had first contacted Earth, now looked at humans with complete respect. The species he had initially considered primitive and aggressive had just saved multiple galactic civilizations. "Humans are not conquerors," Kiro announced to the assembled delegates. "They are guardians." The consumer threat had revealed something fundamental about humanity. Where other civilizations specialized in single approaches, peaceful research, energy manipulation, intellectual development, humans remained adaptable. They could be researchers, warriors, philosophers, and survivors, all at once. Sung Huang's research teams began analyzing the captured consumer technology. What they discovered would change scientific understanding forever. The silicon-based life forms weren't just a threat. They were a complex biological system with incredible potential for understanding. Global celebrations erupted across Earth. But the celebrations were different from traditional military victories. These were celebrations of problem-solving, of adaptability, of survival. The alien delegates began requesting human scientific and military advisors. Planetary systems that had been threatened by the consumers now saw humans as their primary protection. "We don't want territory," Jay explained during a diplomatic meeting. "We want balance." Detailed analysis showed how humanity's approach was unique. They didn't seek conquest. They sought understanding. Every technological breakthrough, every tactical decision was about preserving life, not just human life, but all potential life in the galaxy. The consumer technology revealed complex molecular structures that could revolutionize energy production, medical research, and space exploration. What was once seen as a pure threat became a potential scientific breakthrough. Hana's research teams worked around the clock, translating consumer technological principles into potential solutions for multiple scientific challenges: energy production, medical treatments, space exploration technologies. The galactic perception of humans transformed overnight. No longer were they seen as aggressive, primitive creatures. They were recognized as a complex, adaptive species capable of solving problems that seemed impossible. Kiro presented a formal commendation to the United Earth Command. "You have saved civilizations that didn't even know they needed saving," he said, his crystalline form shifting with genuine emotion. The redemption wasn't just about military victory. It was about showing the galaxy that survival doesn't mean destruction. It means understanding, adapting, and protecting. Earth's representative to the Galactic Confederation made a simple statement that would be remembered for generations. "We fight not because we love war, but because we love life." Scientific exchanges began. Technological collaborations emerged. The barriers between different galactic civilizations started to dissolve. Jay looked at the star maps. Where previous conflicts had created divisions, humanity had created connections. They had shown that difference doesn't mean conflict. It means opportunity. Sung's research teams continued studying consumer technology. What was once seen as a pure threat became a pathway to understanding complex biological systems. The alien delegates realized something profound. Humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons. It was in their ability to see challenges as opportunities, to transform potential destruction into potential understanding. As star systems began recovering, a new era of galactic cooperation emerged, and at the center of this new understanding was a species that had been underestimated for too long. Humans had saved the day. Not through pure military might, but through intelligence, adaptability, and an unbreakable commitment to life. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had just begun its journey among the stars.